because otherwise he'd have been bumped off. If he was a person, I'm pretty sure he wouldn't be here now.
Yeah, that's it. Now we're really talking because ultimately these clever guys, they knew what they were doing.
Welcome everybody to episode 6 of White Mirror. Simon's got a little bit of surprise for us this week. I don't know what the heck is going on, but I've got one for him. First of all, though, please subscribe to our channel, like and share our content. Will help us absolutely no end. That would be really kind of you. We'd appreciate that. And let's get it all out there for everybody. This is for the people. Let's get it out there. Si, how are you?
I'm all right, mate. I'm good. I wanted to have a chat with you about the people of Web3
Okay.
because there's so many unsung heroes behind it all who've laid the groundwork for Bitcoin, and I wanted to talk a little bit about that. What do you
Well,
think?
I think that's brilliant. But interestingly that you mentioned that you're one of them.
No, no, no. I am not amongst these people.
I see it that way. And there's something in the post on its way to you, Simon, and it's that.
Ah!
Yes.
May start. That is a wonderful warning. I think this people will really appreciate this, actually, Dave. I love it.
I
Please,
think it's a
please
really
send me
cool, it's a really cool shirt. I really like
I
it.
know, I like that. That's great.
All
Amazing.
right, mate. Well, I'm really interested to see what you're actually talking about, as
Yeah,
usual.
so I'm definitely not amongst this group of people. This is
Uh,
a renowned group of people, and they called themselves in the 80s and 90s the Cypherpunks. All right.
okay,
And
right. I've
it
never
was
heard of it.
yeah, it was an online mailing list, online forum, if you like, for chatting and talking about cryptography and privacy and all of these amazing concepts that they laid the groundwork for Bitcoin
Right. And so this was in when? When was this?
right from the early 80s, well, from the mid 80s all the way through the 90s, and then through to the beginning of Bitcoin, 2008, 2009. This is the kind of foundational years where it all
Right.
started to come together. Shall we learn a bit about it,
Yeah,
Dave?
yeah. I mean, it amazes me that this was all going on in the 80s.
Well, the problem was, or the problem generally is that a lot of this can be quite geeky, right? We
Yeah.
appreciate that. The whole of this channel, it's not a crypto channel. I want to kind of reiterate that. This is a decentralization channel.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the where it goes to is fascinating. What it allows us to do as a society in the future will be amazing. But the groundwork could be a bit geeky, but it's still nonetheless very, very interesting. And I think people should understand at least a little bit about it, where it
Right.
all.
Let's go.
Okay, so introducing the people of Web3, the early years, the 1980s and the 1990s. So, as I mentioned, the cypherpunks. So they're a group of technologists, activists, if you like, cryptographers, and this is where cryptography in computing was really starting. But if you can imagine like this buzzing online forum in the early days of the internet, all the brilliant minds coming together. You can see a few of them down here, and I'm going to talk about these guys
Okay.
about code, um, and protecting individual liberties and that sort of thing. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, what were they trying to do? They were aiming to promote societal and political change. And they really believed in decentralization, individual autonomy, and freedom from centralized institutions.
They also obviously had a bit of foresight about the internet. They obviously knew that this thing was just going to grow and become huge.
Well, indeed, the internet was becoming established during these years, certainly the 90s, um, and into the early 2000s. But indeed, I guess they did have a bit of foresight about the idea that it is human nature for us to kind of centralize things. There's greed and things associated, And they were already trying to put the primitives in place, the building blocks that kind of prevented some of these things from happening. Some of the things that we've actually seen happen and are
Yeah.
now only being rectified in Web3.
Okay. That's incredible.
Yeah. So let's have a look. In the late 80s, we had David Chaum. He's sort of working on technology. Well, he put a company together called DigiCash and had a product called eCash. And this was kind of like one of the very, very early ideas of crypto. But it still relied on centralized institutions and things like that. We'll talk about that in the next slide. But fast forward a little bit, we had in 1997, it's quite a few years later, we had Adam Back looking at things called Hashcash. This is really interesting. This is about preventing spam and things. But then it was used, some of those concepts were used later in Bitcoin things.
I used to live in Amsterdam. That meant something else.
In this case, it is hash in terms of cryptography. Hash.
Okay. Gotcha.
1998, we've got Wei Dai coming along. He's proposing a white paper for something called B money, more kind of like a distributed money. And in the late 90s, we had Nick Szabo coming along with the idea for bit gold. Now, each one of these things, each one of these technologies, they brought a piece in that Bitcoin then built upon all those bits and pieces. Okay.
Okay,
We'll talk
gotcha.
about people. Sorry, mate, go on.
No, I understand. Yeah, I can see how it develops.
Right. 2008, 2009 is the start of Bitcoin. And Satoshi, who we know sort of disappeared, didn't he? And maybe we could talk about the reasons why in this video.
If he indeed was a person.
Good point.
Hmm.
So David Chum, like I say, he founded a company called DigiCash, and their product was eCash. Now, it wasn't a total failure, this. It wasn't like it didn't work at all, because there's actually some of the banks did get behind this. Deutsche Bank got behind this. Credit Suisse got behind this to a certain degree. They were at least testing these ideas.
Right. Uh-huh.
And the core idea is sort of a privacy-preserving type of digital cash. But unlike Bitcoin and unlike the real Web3 principles, it still required a centralized authority, namely a bank, right? The only thing that this actually allowed, this is the problem about it. But it did allow a trusted issuer like a bank to sign a banknote. It's like going off to an ATM and you asking the bank to give you a digital note, right? And that digital note could be actually of any value. You could ask for a £6 or a $14 note, or you could ask for 6 notes of all different types of values, and you'd ask for them, and the bank would sign them, but it wouldn't know the serial number of each one of those notes. So once you take that valid signed request, the bank would debit your account, and you'd get this kind of digital coin or digital note that you could then move around. You send to your friends, or you could perhaps send it to a merchant who wanted something, right?
Okay.
But the bank doesn't know the serial number, so they can't keep track of who's got what until somebody goes to redeem it. Maybe the merchant comes and says, your £6 note, I want to redeem that now. And then they say, right, okay, they can then unwrap it all at that point, and they can see the serial number and blah, blah, blah. They get the number, they get the actual value of the note, and they credit the merchant. So, but it still requires this kind of centralized issuer, which isn't great, right? We don't get away from the idea of central institutions, but we do have privacy. It's kind of a digital way of having private cash, if you like, which was a great idea, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so this is in the late 80s, early 90s. And then we can move on to Adam Back. So again, another fantastic idea, not money related specifically. He came up with the idea, or he's trying to solve the problem of spam on the internet and what happens if someone was sending emails, spammy emails. He came up with the idea of proof of work, really, and this is foundational in Bitcoin. It basically means that a spammer can't go and create hundreds of emails really quickly, really cheaply. They have to actually put a little bit of effort or a little bit of processing CPU time into it. So it's like the best analogy is like having a stamp and having to actually put a stamp on an email. You have to kind of get your stamp, you have to lick it, you have to put it on the envelope, and that all takes just a little bit of time. But in computer speak, actually what he'd done was say that in order to send one of these, you actually have to solve a little crypto algorithm, and it takes just a few seconds. That's fine if it's one email, right? But imagine
Yeah.
if you're trying to do that thousands of emails, it would take ages and it would cost a lot of computing time to spam.
Yeah.
But individuals who are sending legitimate emails could do it really easily. So this was Hashcash, but not really for money. But you can see how it's useful, right? As it starts to come into, you know, the rest of the things that came together for Bitcoin. So this is designed as a filter. It wasn't a monetary system. Hashcash alone doesn't provide a shared ledger or any ownership rules of money or a way to transfer the money. But moving on, now we introduce Wei Dai, who really, really clever guy. He came up with this, the blueprints, the white paper for B money. And he's the first to imagine a distributed network doing the bookkeeping, right? A ledger that's distributed amongst loads of nodes. And if you can remember in one of the previous episodes, Dave, we were talking about nodes and how Bitcoin sends the information around those nodes and they share it and there's no leader. So this is kind of what Wei Dai is proposing right at the beginning.
Okay.
So again, he's sort of proposing proof of work, distributed ledger, balances, but there was a few things missing in the total idea. But there certainly is a ledger. Now, Nick Szabo came along in the late 90s, and his idea is for bit gold. And basically, this is the first time that we come up with an idea that is something similar to a blockchain. Bit gold was an idea of actually minting digital gold and solving puzzles, the proof of work, and publishing the proofs, and then chaining them into like a necklace of value. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
David, am I being clear? Is this geek speak, or am I actually getting it across in any way?
No, this isn't geek speak. I can see how this thing's building in. So I see how each element of this, of the people that you've shown me, are the foundations of what we now know as Bitcoin. Uh,
Right.
I think, am I right with that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, I
So
can see that. And I noticed they've all got beards, apart from the Japanese stroke Chinese chap.
yeah. Well, all of these things did come together, Dave. And then we have Satoshi Nakamoto, right?
Okay.
This is 2008 that he's proposing the white paper for Bitcoin. So let me summarize just a little bit. If we could say that DigiCash was kind of like the privacy angle, the cryptographic piece, and
Right.
enabling sort of like private money. Bitcoin isn't exactly the same, but those early ideas did feed in. But these other three technologies, Hashcash. So Hashcash was the idea of proof of work. You actually had to work to produce something. So it wasn't just digitally dead easy to go and produce something.
I.e. the mining.
Exactly.
Okay.
That is where mining comes from. They actually have to do, they have to solve a cryptographic puzzle.
Right.
And that's right. In Hashcash, they were just taking a few seconds to lick a stamp and put it on a digital email, right? And send it off. But in Bitcoin, they're actually spending a bit of time to validate a block, and that gives them the right. If it was easy, it would be, everybody would be able to do it. It has to have a certain threshold to prevent it and make it
Yeah.
scarce,
Yeah.
right?
Got it.
Okay, so Hashcash was that. B money came along. That was the P2P, the peer-to-peer ledger. That a ledger was shared without any centralized institutions. Because if you remember, back with DigiCash, we needed like a Deutsche Bank, or we needed a Credit
Yeah.
Suisse, something to be the voice of reason. Okay, but here it's shared and everybody agrees on the same thing.
Okay.
So, um, so that's right. We had this peer-to-peer ledger with B money, and then BitGold came along late 90s and said, right, okay, we're now minting tokens, and this is how we do it. There's a certain amount of scarcity, and everybody agrees, and we've got the full ledger now. So Bitcoin borrowed from all of those different cryptographic tools, if you like, and it all came together. So Satoshi over here, he's the guy that's supposed to be responsible for all of this. But, and if you ask any of those cypherpunks who Satoshi is, they won't tell you, right? There's actually quite a few documentaries, and they're quite good on this. I watched one on the plane, Dave. My wife tapped me on the shoulder and said, "You'll be interested in that." And she showed me that. I think it just shut me up for like a few hours. That's what she's saying now. But anyway, okay, I'll watch that. So, and it's I'll need to look up the name of that day. Maybe we could put it in the comments, in the
Okay.
description.
Yeah. Yeah.
But effectively, this reporter was going around trying to find out adamantly who Satoshi Nakamoto was, and by asking all these original, the cypherpunks, and asking everybody in the crypto community, trying to find. None of them really want to give this. None of them, but they're so nice guys, and they were kind of like talking to him a bit. But actually, if you really do listen to what they're saying, they all say the same thing. We're all Satoshi. Or they say that, what do they say? We're all Spartan. They're together as a group. And if you look at what we're explaining in this video, they are all responsible for a piece. Just because Bitcoin came along at the end and took all of those bits and put it together,
Mhm.
who do we really think is responsible for all these clever, unique ideas? Well, I personally think it's the team.
Yeah, and I've always thought that Satoshi Nakamoto was, yeah, kind of an intelligence created by a number of people,
Right.
and because otherwise he'd have been bumped off. If he was a person, I'm pretty sure he wouldn't be
Well,
here now.
yeah, that's it. Now we're really talking, because ultimately these clever guys, they knew what they were doing. They knew that to get this far with what they were doing and to have a real viable candidate now for the people's money
Yeah.
without centralized institutions, they knew full well that it isn't something that the powers that be are altogether totally on board with.
Any
Um,
central power, well, they're all investing in it now. They're all, obviously they're trying to centralize it by owning it all. But
Yeah, but I
that's not
mean, we could
possible.
talk in another video about why I think that's going to be very, very difficult in the long run, Dave.
Yeah, yeah,
But again, this is even bigger than Bitcoin. So let's not get even the fact that we've actually come up with Bitcoin, and that's the end of this road, if you like.
yeah.
Decentralization is far, far bigger. The ideas are out in the public domain, right? We have hundreds, thousands of different cryptocurrencies that borrow on different elements of that. So, and we've talked about in one of the episodes all the different types of cryptos. So, yeah, I don't think it's too much of a worry that centralized institutions will try to and finally achieve their goal of maybe trying to monopolize again. I don't think you can monopolize this decentralized technologies.
I don't think so either. From what I've learned in 6 episodes now, I'm pretty sure that this is the way forward. You know, it's doesn't matter how much you invest in it, how much you buy. I think they're only going to benefit from the profit of it, and that's it. I don't think they can own this. I don't think they can take it away from the people, which is why we're here, Simon.
Absolutely. So I hope I've kind of given you a bit of an explanation. It's a shorter video, but indeed it's slightly geeky, more geeky video, which I love. But I do hope the audience enjoys just a little bit of the background.
It's really good to know this stuff, Si, because otherwise it's just a mystery. You know, if you don't know the foundations of it, you know, where did this all come from? Well, some geeks invented it, so what? But it is really, really nice to know that.
Well, that's it, Dave. Anyway, so let's look forward to the next episode. Again, hopefully people can subscribe and like.
Yeah, please subscribe, like, and share. Massive for us, that is. And yeah, let's grow this group. Let's keep growing it. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, Dave.